Hey friends, Amanda Prope, certified life coach, here to talk to you today about a slightly different concept on one that we've already talked about. I want to talk with you today about relationships and where relationships are formed because we tend to think that in society that our relationships exist on the outside of us, right? We have relationships with our kids, we have relationships with our husbands, our friends, our family. They are all outside of us. And so we tend to think that our relationships are also outside of us. But I want to show you something that is actually so important. Our relationships with other people actually begin in our mind. Now, think about this. If you have a family member, say, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and as a member, we have a lot of our family members or friends that go on missions for 18 months to 2 years. And prior to a couple of years ago, we actually didn't get to have any connection with them other than maybe once or twice a year. So once or twice a year, we might get to talk with them. And yet, we still have, it's not like just because they go on their mission, we stop thinking about them, or we stop worrying about them, or we stop praying for them, or we stop loving them, right? Also, the concept of think about a loved one that maybe might have passed on. It's not like they're forgotten either, right? We still hold these memories in our mind and we hold them in our hearts, and we can still feel so much love and joy when we think about them. Just as, for instance, if we have a family member that maybe we've had a fight with, or a friend that we've had a fight with, and maybe we have, distanced ourselves from them and we haven't talked to them, yet we can still feel so much anger inside of us, right? And I want you to see the connection that the feelings that you're having inside your mind, which is coming from the thoughts that you're thinking about these people, that those are your actual relationships. You can choose to love someone unconditionally, whether they want you to or not, and they can't stop you. Because just because perhaps someone might be angry with you and doesn't want to talk with you does not mean that you can't think loving thoughts about them and wish them well and still pray for them and think about them. That is a relationship. So, the reason why I want to show you this is because I kind of want to talk with you about an experience I had this 2 weekends ago with my husband on this model that I'm working with. And I wanted to share it with you because it's so funny and it's so fascinating. But it comes, and what it has led me to is more working towards this connection, this relationship inside my mind with my husband rather than the outward connection that I know he wants right now, because it's a little too much of a stretch for me right now. Okay. So I just kind of wanted you guys to see how we can still be connected to people, whether they are near or far from us. Distance does not matter. Whether they are alive or not does not matter. What matters is what we think about them. And so our relationships with anybody and everybody, including ourselves, start inside our mind. And it starts with the thoughts that we think of other people. Okay. So I want you to have that basis, and maybe even just that information right now will like help open up your mind to so many things that might be happening around you. Because really, we think that people can feel our love based off of the things that we do for them, or people can feel our anger based off of what we do or think about them. But honestly, when we stop and we think about that, we can't make anyone feel how we're feeling about them inside. The only way that somebody might know if we're angry is if we tell them. But just because we do certain actions or think certain thoughts about people doesn't mean that they're going to feel that love or anger, because they're not inside of us. They're thinking their own thoughts, and that's where their connection and that's where their relationships lie for them. So our relationships start inside of us. So I want to talk to you about this, okay? So that you can see how this might work in the model and how I am working towards connecting with my husband, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago, that my goal is to connect with my husband. And I am working on this new thought that I am stronger for allowing myself to need him, because my husband has told me many times that he wants to feel needed. And so that new thought that I am thinking helps me to feel open instead of being resistant to needing my husband. And so I'm looking for ways that I can connect with him and allowing him to help me and wanting him to help me, right? In hopes that I will create, not even in hopes, just knowing that that means I will create that connection that I'm longing for with my husband, and that I will allow him that I will allow myself to feel need for him, right? So here's the situation that happened. It was a couple weekends ago. My two littlest ones have been sick. And so I had been spending a lot of time with them, taking care of them and sleeping with them because it was croup. And so they were having a hard time at night. And so I ended up getting a sinus infection from them. And 2 weekends ago, we were sitting down on the couch. And I was drinking a nice warm concoction that I had made to help alleviate my sinuses and everything. And we were all downstairs, and I finished my drink, and my husband had finished his popcorn. And so he went to walk upstairs, and he simply asked me, "Hey, can I take your cup upstairs for you?" And I didn't think much about it, but I was just holding it in my lap, and I was like, I'll take it when I go upstairs. No big deal. And he got very irritated, and he was like, "You should just let me help you sometimes." And it was fascinating to watch. It's like I almost had this out of body experience, right? Like where I could see my brain thinking and my brain actually screaming at me saying, "Yes, this is what you're looking for. You want him to feel needed by you. Let him help you," right? Like it was so fascinating. And yet, as soon as he said that, as soon as he said, "You should just let me help you," like I just dug in and I was like, nope, there's no way I'm going to open my mouth. And there's no way I'm going to say, "Sure, honey, go ahead and take my cup." It was fascinating and so silly. And yet, because I have this deeply held belief that I shouldn't need anyone, and when he said I should just allow him to help me, I was like, nope. And it was so funny. My brain was screaming at me, just let him help you, just connect with him. So, the next week I had a coaching session with my coach, and I told her about this silly incident, and we talked about it, and it helped me to reveal that for me, it was really hard to connect with him in the way that he wants me to connect with him right now. Even though I'm willing to connect with him in that way, it's a really big stretch for me. And so right now, and so that's where this relationship in my mind comes into play, and where it might help you guys if you guys are struggling in any type of relationship. Maybe you've had a fight with a family member or a friend, or you're trying to do the same work where you're trying to create a deeper connection. So for me, it made me realize in that coaching session that I really needed to start my connection with my husband in ways that I wanted to connect with him. As much as I'm willing and wanting to connect with him in the way he wants me to, it's too much of a chasm for me right now. It just is. And so I'm having compassion for myself for that. I'm having compassion for my husband and loving and appreciating that he deals with me. Um, and just realizing that I need to connect with him with what's true for me. And so that might mean that my husband doesn't even realize I'm connecting with him, right? Like, so here's a couple ways that I've connected with him. I've noticed him doing something that I do appreciate or that I'm happy he did. And I didn't even say anything. I just looked at him and I was like, thanks, in my own head. And that connected me with him. Or it was also funny this week. I walked into the bedroom and he had made the bed the way I like the bed made. And that seems so small. And there is no right or wrong way to make a bed, but I constantly am remaking the bed because I don't like the way he makes the bed. And I had walked in and he had actually made the bed the way I like it. And I had actually even looked under because usually it doesn't pull up the sheet and everything. And he had done it the way that I like it. And so I was very careful about my words because I wanted to thank him and appreciate him and connect with him in that way. And so I made sure not to say thank you for making the bed right, because there is no right or wrong way. And I appreciate when he makes the bed. But I went to him and I said, thank you for making the bed the way I like it made. And he may not have even felt a connection there. He may not have thought that I was connecting with him. But for me, that was a huge connection. Okay. So some of these things I'm just thinking in my head, and he doesn't even know I'm thinking them. Some of them are just very simple appreciations that I'm saying to him, and he might not take it as a connection. But for me, in my heart, in my mind, in my soul, I am starting to feel a connection with my husband. And I know while it might still be hard for me right now, I know that through that connection that I am feeling for him, that it is going to grow bigger. And through that growth, I am going to want to allow him to help me. And it's not going to be hard for me to say, sure, honey, take my cup. I would really appreciate that, because it just, that resistance will fade. It's just going to take time. Like I had said previously, this is a journey. It's uncomfortable. It's doing things differently than we have always done. And that's never fun or easy. And it takes time and it takes patience and it takes compassion for both me and for him. And yet it's so beautiful the way that it comes together. So take this concept of the fact that your relationships actually begin in your own mind. And if you are struggling in a relationship right now with somebody, whether it's a family member or a friend, realize that whatever it is that you're wanting to feel with them, they don't have to feel that feeling from you. If you can just bring it into your own mind with that person, that feeling will grow. And from that growth, then they might eventually end up feeling it also. And maybe you'll want to do it in different ways to where you know that they know that that's how you're feeling about them. So go and connect with your relationships through your mind and improve your life and enjoy seeing the fruits of your labor. Thanks for being with me today. Have a good one.